Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something clicked.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny, I haven't seen that before.
And it feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
Welcome.
So here I am.
Yeah. You made it.
Being brave. I know.
I think so. I think it's super brave.
Yeah. The thing is, I can't figure out exactly what kind of brave it is. Meaning that, in terms of the sort of, I know that callers can cut bits out and that sort of thing. And whenever I thought about that, I was like, but I don't know exactly what I'm worried about besides kind of obviously if there's people, I guess, might want to take out any identifying information about other people or situations or whatever. But I think there's also just a kind of existential, kind of hiding that goes on for me that makes me, how unlikely is it that somebody would stumble on this and then be able to identify the person,
Right. Right.
But I'm also the kind of person that will tell people what I'm doing. So, those would be, I guess, closer friends. So I'd be like, this is great podcast. Anyway.
Yeah, that can be tricky. I get it. I
know
get
there's
it.
some time.
I get nervous about all these calls.
Yeah. But I think sometimes you just have to do things to find out.
Mm-hmm. And I think that most people, it gets easier, If we're on our fourth and fifth call, and by that time I probably still wouldn't have published any of them, and that would be 3 months from now. It's kind of all a lot easier to look back on and think about what matters and what and how you feel about sharing it then.
Yeah, totally. I'm sure the time lag helps. I could imagine though that because I know you kind of give callers the opportunity to re-listen, which is probably something I would do. But I sort of feel like it might depend a lot on the mood that I'm in when I re-listen, what's okay and not okay. But anyway, I get to hypothesize about it. It's not necessarily helpful. So
we'll have lots of time to do that.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the whole recording thing or publishing thing?
No, because I think I've heard it come up in a number of your episodes, and so I think I'm clear about it. One thing that kind of prompted me to contact you after listening to a number of episodes was the ability in this kind of model to talk about stuff without being detailed at all, right? And you're often even encouraging people to do that, which is great. I guess maybe there's some fear of some parts or ways of talking where I'll want to, like, I've heard you calling it, connect the dots or fill in the backstory. And I definitely have parts that will do that. And so I think I got the sense that if I'm kind of trying to say things in a less detailed way, will it be possible to be authentic if I'm kind of like filtering that myself?
Right.
But again, I won't know till I try. So
yeah. Well, my suggestion there would probably be to not do any filtering and leave that for our future selves and parts to decide. Because what I find most often is that someone will call in and there will be a part where they do the dot connecting, and it does, they're talking about their daughter or something, and they want to take that out. And almost always it's a couple minutes that you just take out. It's not like, it's usually not sprinkled all through every 20 seconds. It's usually like they want to tell the story, and then, okay, the story's over, and then we're back to just talking about how parts feel. So quite often that's one cut or two cuts, and rarely any more than that. And it's usually pretty obvious, even to me, like, that's another place where I get with callers where I already know where they're going to want to cut it, and they they have very little work that they need to put in on their side, which is my goal, so that I can just say, here's where I think you want it cut, and they say yep, and simple.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah. That's
helpful. Yeah. Okay. So I can introduce you to part here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, actually, so this is, so I don't know if this is important, but I haven't been very familiar with IFS until around about the time I found the podcast, maybe a few months ago. And so, the podcast has been almost all my exposure to it.
Okay.
I was seeing a therapist who sort of lists IFS, and but around the time she started sort of bringing it into the sessions, I was also listening to quite a lot of your episodes, and I was just like, this is so. I don't know, that she was just kind of like interjecting a lot and talking a lot, and so for me didn't feel helpful. But it didn't feel as good. It didn't feel sort of the same kind of whatever's drawing me to this.
Okay.
So good the part, though, the part is I started off by calling it the narrator, and then at one point I thought maybe a better name would be the rehearser, and it could be the dot connector. But it's like a voice in my head that just, literally narrates everything or has conversations before I have them. So it's been doing a lot around this conversation. And sometimes it's just like completely inane stuff that wouldn't, just like minutia. And it can be exhausting. But it's the only part that I've had a nice little moment with, actually, and it happened when I was walking and when I was away and visiting my mom, and I guess I just sort of felt a bit of gratitude for it working so hard, and it was actually a lovely little moment. And so anyway, that's super prominent for me a lot, all the time. sometimes just kind of like, you know, even like say I run into someone on the street in the neighborhood kind of thing, like, you know, just hearing myself saying stuff. And I'm like, you know, part of me is like, what are you doing? You know, maybe I'm late for something or whatnot. So it is a very, very busy part. And I guess I had worries that like it's going to jump in a lot, you know, in this process. But it is almost certainly, I think, countering a part that has been very like voiceless and kind of, you know, not able to speak. At so, yeah.
Okay.
So that's as far as
great.
Yeah.
They're both welcome. They're all welcome.
Yeah.
I'd like to get to know any and all of them. If you're ready to get started, would you like to start with a minute of meditation?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. I'll set a timer, and then I'll ask you if you have any parts you want to work with. Okay. Okay. So, is that the part that you'd like to start with, or are there others that you'd like to get to know better?
I don't know. I can go by some sensations. I don't know if it's that part. I think
great place to start.
Yeah. So kind of like a jitteriness in the sort of outside layer of my face. But yeah, I mean, this is, I guess, where the guiding comes in, because I can sort of identify sensations and then be curious about them, but it's hard to link them or go much further than that. Anyway, that was very present. That was like the most present sensation.
Okay. We can start there if you'd like. Jitteriness on the outside layer of your face. Any other sensations, physical sensations come with that?
It's almost like a little bit of twitching, you know, on the lower right side of my lip that I see as like a heightened version of that kind of sensation.
Okay. And how do you feel towards that part as you notice it there?
Well, it either feels like anxiety, or I'm feeling anxious about it, or it tells me that I'm a bit anxious.
Okay. You could try checking that out with it. Let it know that you're thinking that it's anxious and that it's kind of causing you to feel anxiety, and just see if that's accurate.
I don't know.
That's fine.
Sorry, the sensations move around a little bit, and but also, and I think this is probably something that happens a lot, like not just with IFS, but any time that I do kind of more inner work, like just meditation, or that I'll kind of go blank, or sometimes it will be like being sleepy. So it feels like that. And so I don't know if there are two different things, but there's definitely quite a frequent kind of like, you know, shut down or put the brakes on, or
okay.
And that happened. Try to talk to the jittery feeling in my face.
Okay. So you tried to talk to the jittery feeling, and then what you got back was kind of a blank or sleepy feeling?
Yeah, not sleepy, but more let me try again. I can't tell if all that happens is I just feel that feeling and there's no kind of like further understanding or opening of it. Mm-hmm. But it almost feels like everything just gets kind of suspended and a bit maybe frozen's not the right word, but like suspended, like nothing's gonna happen. Okay. And maybe that's a sort of I'm not going to know how to do this. I mean, that's not what's happening now, but I think that might be like right under the surface,
Okay, great. It's fine. So I will ask again, how do you feel towards it?
I think I feel anxious.
Okay.
About it being there.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's some anxiety, and that anxiety, can you say more about how the anxious about it being there feels?
I mean, again, I'm not quite sure if it's just doing what I'm doing right now, or how I feel towards this part. But it feels like being on the spot, kind of like, I gotta come up with something.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So the part that says you got to come up with something, I just want to let it know that it's very welcome here. That you don't have to come up with anything for me, but I understand if it feels like you do for some reason. And that's welcome. I'd like to get to know what that's about. And it also doesn't have to do anything. So if it doesn't want to be known, that's okay too. But I do believe that it has a good intention. Can you send it that message from me?
Yeah, let me do that. Yeah, so I think that's a bit calmer. And the kind of face sensations, they're really common for me. And they're still there, but they're sort of shifting around a little bit, like a bit of pressure on the forehead. Yeah.
Okay. So the one that feels like it's on the spot has to come up with something. That one relaxed a little bit?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks to that part. Do you have any other... So when I ask you how you feel towards a part,
Mm-hmm.
You might have other parts come up that say, well, we hate that part, we want it to go away, or something like that.
Mm-hmm,
And it's fine to speak for them too.
Mm-hmm,
so
yeah, I wouldn't say that's there.
Okay.
I would say there's curiosity, but not necessarily the kind of curiosity that we are totally after.
Mm-hmm.
Because I notice these sensations a lot,
Mm-hmm.
like really frequently. And they're very, they're all up in the head region.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there'll be like a real kind of pushing, like as if someone's sort of got a hand on my forehead.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens so frequently that I'm like, what is that all about? But there might be a bit of a kind of maybe what you'd call an agenda part there of like, let's figure this out,
Okay.
I think that's maybe a bit more prominent than the kind of real kind of relaxed curiosity that we're looking for.
Okay. Yeah. So it sounds like it would be another part, the kind of a figure it out part.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You can acknowledge it, let it know that it's also welcome.
And I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, is that part the same as the last part? It's a bit. Is it a bit fluid here? This kind of on the spot part.
We could find out.
Yeah.
You could try asking what it's concerned about. Or if it has any concerns it wants to share with us.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I don't completely know if I'm just kind of jumping back to thoughts I had, about this before it started, but
Okay.
There's certainly a quite, I would say quite dominant in my life, a sort of sense that like, oh, I'm not going to follow through, or not going to kind of like keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's hard for me to know if like just the kind of volume of overthinking that I do is feeding my answers here, but it's.
And I really appreciate you're noticing all of that and being able to kind of share that with me. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I'm going to be one of those people where there's just like an absolute chaos of parts all at the beginning that I guess that's normal.
I think it's kind of everyone.
They haven't been able to talk for so long, and they're probably kind of clamoring.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
even to do what we've done so far, which is like we made the call, we fixed the tech things, and now we've asked these questions. Like that's a lot of big steps. You're now doing IFS, possibly in public.
Yeah.
So it would make a lot of sense to me that parts would be up and about and clamoring or clamming up.
Yeah. Yeah. All of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is very normal to take several conversations before getting over that kind of initial hurdle of just getting them to settle and respond.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Totally. That's very validating because there's a kind of like, how will I know? How will I know if it's a part or just my anticipation or overthinking or,
Yep.
like being cerebral about something that we want to be not cerebral, but kind of more authentic.
Very good to look out for.
Mm-hmm.
Just since you mentioned it, would you like to try checking in with the one who thinks that you're not going to follow through?
Yeah, it's a bit, I mean, it comes up as a sort of real theme of, like I've been involved in meditation for a long time. And there's a lot of time when I'm twisting myself in knots where I kind of come to the conclusion of like, well, it's not like meditation is going to fix everything, but really like all I need to do is create some time to, make some inner space. And there's a real resistance to that. And I think I won't follow through is like a part of that, but maybe not all of that. So there's sort of like, I don't finish things that I start, or, and there's a kind of restlessness that can be quite visceral, like even when I'm doing anything like this. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think so.
Yeah, I guess I said that just to like, did I, was the, what did I even say? Not going to follow through or not going to.
You were saying that the not going to follow through feels like it's maybe part of maybe something bigger, which is a resistance to make inner space.
Yeah. 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 I think it's just sort of part of a little orchestra that I got there, I won't, because, clearly this process is not something that you just do in conversations every few weeks or whatever it is.
Ideally, and over time you're doing it more and more, or it's getting more kind of seamless, integrated.
Yeah, so I'm probably just kind of rushing ahead there. But so let me just check in and see what's there of that whole kind of theme.
Okay. They're all welcome.
Yeah. So, as someone who can have like a cacophony of thoughts, is it better to use sort of more sensory trailheads? Because if I try to check in with that, like what is that makes me, that's kind of a resistance about, don't start because you don't finish things, or it's not very
just feels cognitive.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it just feels like an echo of frequent past thoughts.
I think that yes, IFS is kind of starts with the sensory stuff, and it is body based. But as far as trailheads, I think anything can work, including a memory of a thought that was a message. So if that's something that you've felt or heard kind of before, this repeated kind of message that you're not going to follow through, even though that's a phrase, we could take that as a trailhead. We could then look for, does that come along with any sensations?
Yeah, there's This is not something I'm having right now, but there's often this kind of it's like a what word do I want to use? It's so momentary, it's so fast, but it's so frequent that I've like really picked up on it a lot, and probably just because I've been a reflective person for a long time and sort of trying to do this inner work in some shape or form. So it'll be like I'll have a thought and it might be nothing to do with inner work or anything like that, but it might be like, oh, gotta tidy my closet or something. Something that I feel should be, not a big deal or achievable. Mm-hmm. And there'll be like this moment of, I don't know if it's the words or it's not particularly sensory, but like a kind of like, oh no, don't even, no you can't, or don't even start. So okay. I think that's kind of in the lines that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to get to know that part a little better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have the thought to tidy your closet, and then there's something else that comes up that says, oh no, you can't. Don't even start.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you notice any sensations in your body when that comes up?
I'm not sure if I'm replicating like how it feels when it happens.
That's fine.
But the next thing would be like, yeah, well, because I might not finish it, right? Okay. So that's I think what's driving it. Yeah,
that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel towards the part that says don't even start?
Excuse me. Frustrated, I guess.
Okay, great. So we have a frustrated part. Mm-hmm.
But respectful as well. Like
respectful.
I mean, I think I get how it's a protection. It's a protective thing. Because like the if I'm going to use the closet example, but it could be any number of things. Just sort of the chaos that I might feel like I'm in if I begin something and then like, lose track of time or, it is really deeply uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this kind of, not finishing theme.
Okay. So when you said respectful, that's kind of just acknowledging that you feel like you might already kind of get it, what this part's about.
Well, I could see how it's, I think, trying to protect me from like taking something on and feeling like shit because it doesn't get done.
It could be.
And it's the more those things happen, in a way that the deeper the groove, maybe.
Mm-hmm. So you could be totally right.
Mm.
And if I was going to bet, I would probably bet on that too.
Yeah.
And we can find out directly from it if that's true and if it has anything else it wants to let us know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So even if I don't have a sensation here, or if that kind of little thought or little kind of cut off feeling is not active, I can still ask that question.
You can, but first we got to talk to that frustrated part.
Okay.
The one who's frustrated with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
You just let it know that you notice it and that it's also welcome.
So when I do that, the kind of lip quivering, twitching thing comes back really strongly. So,
okay.
I don't know if that tells us anything.
They all can tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could ask lip quivering part. Why did you show back up when I tried to turn to the frustrated part?
Mm-hmm. On the spot part is back.
Okay. This is great.
Okay.
We're learning the chain of who triggers who.
Okay.
Okay. And I just want to say again, like I think it's really great that you're reporting what you're feeling and not more and not less. Like if that's what's coming up, that's great. So I want to thank the on the spot part for being who it is, and just remind it that there's absolutely no expectation coming from me. You don't have to do anything. We also, if you do know of ways that help these parts relax, like so far I've just kind of been asking questions. If you have better questions, or you would do, it would help to have another minute meditation or something, like please, we can go with whatever feels right for you.
Yeah, we could try another minute and just sort of see what happens.
Okay.
I can't think of another way.
Okay. I'll set a timer.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to just acknowledge all the thoughts. The on the spot one might have added a kind of, but I have to be good at this. Yeah, which is that definitely has some history in my system. Kind of. Yeah.
Would you like to learn more about that? Okay. How do you feel towards the on the spot part? Or the one that says you have to be good at this?
I guess curious. Cautiously curious.
And what's the caution about?
Some
concerns?
I think the caution comes back to the same sort of like, how will I know if I'm really hearing it or hearing my assumptions about it? But yeah, I'm curious. Or maybe in the past, sort of pre-thinking in an IFS way, I've kind of traced it back to lots of things, but I want to like really discover it more organically.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. I also want to acknowledge the how will I know question or part, and just acknowledge that you might not have a lot of confidence in where something's coming from, and that might take time. And I might be able to help with that. I don't know to what degree, but that's something that usually gets better over time, easier to know.
So I'm asking the need to be good at this kind of, right?
If you're feeling curious about it, let it know that you're feeling curious about it.
Yeah.
Let it know that it's welcome. Ask it to notice you. And then you could ask it what it wants you to know.
Oh, I'm trying to do it, and I just feel fuzzy.
Fuzzy?
Yeah. I kind of, what I did was kind of just say like, you know, hi everyone, you know, because it just sort of feels like so many things are active or that they're blurring together. And I try to sort of ask those questions, and yeah, everything has a little bit of that fuzzy kind of suspended feeling.
High five for trying.
Thank you.
And I like that your first step was to acknowledge the everyone. So,
because it's noisy. It feels noisy.
Yes, I get it. So I'm glad you noticed that. If you're okay with trying again, maybe we could start with asking the everyone else for a little bit of space. And just let them know that you'd like to just spend a minute checking in with the have to be good at this part and see if they'll just allow you a little space, or if they can go out in the waiting room, or see how they respond to that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of quieting. And those sort of facial sensations are still somewhat there, but more localized, like kind of on the whole right side of my face now. So,
okay. And these parts are willing to let you try to get to know the have to be good at this part?
I think just by the settling, it's definitely not all very settled, but it's more settled than it was.
Yeah, you could also let them know that we can get to know all of them. But one at a time is kind of the only way I know to do it. At most two at a time. So they can all have their turn. They all matter.
That does make the yeah, but you probably won't finish it. Pipe up a little bit.
You won't finish it when I said.
I mean that like that kind of part that feels like I won't, stick with it, or
when I said they'll have their turn, this part was saying no, because we won't stick with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's right. Like, I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know if you're going to keep doing this. So
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bullshit anybody, but
no,
could,
but I think
they could all have their turn.
Yeah, I think I sort of yeah.
But I want to welcome that. I want to welcome that part when it wants to speak up and say, "Well, you don't know that, and we're bad at finishing things." Like, I want to hear that. So I appreciate that. You ready to try to turn to the have to be good at this again? How do you feel towards it?
I'm not sure. I can identify a little bit of a sort of sinking feeling in my kind of like upper abdomen area.
Okay.
Like a little hollow sinking feeling there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Does it feel like it's coming from the part?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, timing wise, yeah. I can't say any of this is clear, but I'm just sort of trying to have some trust in what's happening. You know, when I try to ask those questions, if that sensation comes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Parts can also speak to me if they like. If it feels too difficult or you're having too much trouble, frustrating doing the unblending, like have to be good at this can talk to me if it wants to.
So I'm always kind of riveted when that happens with your other chords. But I just don't know if like could it be willing and another part's like no way.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in theory, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We could both try to ask. We can both try to ask. We can both let the have to be good at this part know that we're curious about it. I definitely am. And you could say that I want to know what it would like for me to know. Or if you feel like you have some self present, you could ask from yourself. What would it like for us to know? About itself, about its experience, about other parts that it deals with, about why it's important, its message.
I think it's going back to this not having a voice. Kind of emotional experience, which is really often quite strong. And yeah, all the physical sensations have changed now.
So have to be good at this has some connection to not having a voice?
I think so.
Just ask it to tell us more.
I'm just getting fuzzy again.
Okay. When you said not having a voice had a strong emotional flavor, can you describe some of what that was like?
Can you say what you mean? Like describe?
Yeah, what's that emotion?
Yeah, it's very powerless, and and it's not happening now, but it has in the past come. I mean, I again, am I putting 2 and 2 together and making 5? But I've had like a sort of very strong feeling of like blockage in my throat, and not happening now though.
Okay. I'd like to, if we can, I have a question for I have to be good at this part.
Mm-hmm.
Does it protect? Is it doing some protecting for the part that feels powerless?
I think I had a yes there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. And thank you for that part, for the yes, and for speaking with me. How do you feel towards it?
The have to be good at it part?
Yeah.
I guess there's some appreciation and a little bit of sort of weariness towards it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we showed the appreciation.
Because it's trying to get recognition.
Yeah.
And yeah. It's trying to kind of, it's just kind of trying to be a person in the world.
Mm-hmm. And the weariness doesn't like that?
Well, maybe the weariness is just from like it can make me touchy in some situations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a kind of you know, it's quite childlike, I think, and it's kind of like if in a situation where I want to, it's like I want to say, you know, I already know that, you know, like it's just not wanting to look foolish, and a sort of like adult me is like, oh my god, just relax.
Yeah.
So I think that weariness is about that. It's like it is, yeah. It feels young and sort of
okay,
rough around the edges.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is all the same.
Try asking it if it's also tired of trying to get recognition, and if it feels like that's not very effective.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And that makes sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also because it just sort of, I think it strives in ways that are like not really helping me. You know.
Could be.
Yeah, like to get sort of recognition or validation and sort of pointless things, or things that I find, you know, unimportant.
Yeah. Yeah. Just let it know that it makes sense to you. And if it's true that it's protecting kind of a part that feels powerless, that it could also be true that both of these parts are kind of stuck in the past. And that's normal. And you can just let it know that it doesn't have to be alone. That you see it, that I see it, that it makes sense to us.
Yeah,
that we'd like to help.
It feels like a bit of relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask another? Go ahead.
Yeah, I will say that kind of like I don't even remember all the things I've said so far, but that they're kind of like how will I know if this is real or if I'm doing it right? That's kind of like just been in the backdrop a little bit as I've had this conversation.
That part's welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, like I had a thought like, well, I'm sure, like you said, it'll get easier to tell, and I'll probably circle back to this kind of thing.
And I'll share this call with you, and you'll be able to listen, and you might have the same experience that I'm having, which, you know, I have my own assumptions and guesses about when something's coming from a part, or when it's, you know, when another part is jumping in to speak for a part, and you listen back once or twice, you'll probably hear it too.
Okay.
You'll hear that change in energy.
Yeah.
And parts settling.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Sorry.
You'll get better at feeling it directly as it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I can certainly feel kind of just sort of shifts in energy and even my voice and things like that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But you had another question for it, I think?
Yeah. What would it rather be doing with its energy if it didn't have to work to protect the powerless one?
See, as you were asking that, I was sort of asking, maybe I was preempting, but I was asking like if it wasn't striving so much. So without being as specific about protecting.
That's fine.
Yeah. I think, again, there's a little bit of doubt of, is my mind just throwing this in there, but just having fun and being playful and being more lighthearted.
And does it show you any ways that it would do that? Anything specific?
Maybe just jumping around and being a bit chaotic.
Okay. You could try asking it how old it thinks you are.
I'm not really getting anything.
That's okay.
So
you could ask, go ahead.
Is it, yeah. So is it, I mean, I guess I'm saying, is it possible? I guess it is possible that I'm having this whole conversation with this part and still being somewhat blended with it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Maybe that's what is going on.
Blended with it, blended with other parts.
Yeah. Blended with the whole, you know.
Totally normal.
Yeah.
I have my own blendedness that comes and goes in degrees.
Yeah, I certainly could imagine myself having this kind of conversation and being much more like kind of clear and centered. And I think part of it is just the newness, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, there wasn't a specific answer about the age.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Does it have any requests of you?
Just to be good at what I'm good at. Does that make sense?
Does it make sense to you?
It does make sense. And again, maybe I'm having a little doubt that did my intellect throw that in there? Because it's been a previous kind of train of thought, Like,
does that mean like don't try to be good at these other things, just stick with what you're already good at?
Well, just like don't waste energy trying to show, it doesn't matter how I might be perceived. And a lot of little things that there seems to be some striving about really don't matter. But yeah, I think that's more my adult self kind of maybe not listening to it well, because
yeah. So twice you've referred to the adult self, and in this context, you're saying it's the one that has this other answer and it's not listening. And the time before was when you were saying that this part was childlike. So I think that is probably also a part. It's a part that's saying, here's why this part is wrong, and here's the solution. The solution is grow up, stop being childlike. Just a guess of mine.
Yeah, I think that adult part is probably pretty busy in invalidating a lot of feelings.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of existing in the world, trying to, function, right?
I think there's a great shift in language there, calling it an adult part instead of adult self.
Yeah.
Great. So if you can just acknowledge that part and ask it for space, and we could try again to see the one that says you have to be good at this and would rather be having fun. Does it have any requests of you? What would it like from you?
I don't know. Now I'm getting that it wants to be good at things. Maybe that's not so different from saying be good at what you're good at. But, maybe there's like an enjoyment of doing things well, and that can get blocked by this kind of, oh no, don't start type of thing. Yeah. Like there's a lot of...
Ask the part how it would feel about you kind of getting to know the adult part and getting to know the don't start part, if you working with those other parts would help it to relax and help it enjoy whatever life it wants to enjoy.
This is not at all visual or even sensory, but it feels like it's jumping up and down. And I don't know if that's just like a kind of let me go off and do stuff, or a yes, that would be a good idea.
Hey, all right. Maybe it's both. It's welcome for both. I asked the question with an assumption that the answer would be yes. We've seen the adult part kind of pushing back on this one. It would make sense that don't even start part is interfering with this one. So you could just let it know that that's possible. It's possible for you to work with those other parts and find out what they need, help them relax. And then this one might be able to relax also. And then, of course, there's the powerless part, which I believe is probably an exiled part that is protecting. And we can do that too. We can go to that part. help it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm feeling like a kind of calmness about that question.
Great. Is there any more you want to ask of this part?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I guess kind of how well I know you, but
That's
I think
a great question.
I think it's just via the thought. I mean, well, okay, so am I answering the question and not letting it answer? But it's like the thought pattern is, or that slight reactivity that could be there if like somebody didn't hear what I just said, and I just like, I just said that. I said that already. I just kind of want to showing that I was like one step ahead or being afraid or whatever.
Okay. So do you feel like you'll be able to recognize and know this part in the future?
I think so. I mean, I think I already do, maybe without having kind of defined it as much. Yeah. And so, yeah. I guess the point is just to acknowledge it, right? If it comes up.
It's a great start. That's what they need. Any parts have any questions of me or concerns they want to share with me?
I don't think so.
Okay. Just feel like a good place to stop?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to thank everybody. Thanks for showing up and letting us learn about you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It's always such a good reminder to be I guess just to notice where there's a sort of shutting down of what they might have to say. Yeah. I mean, I notice you doing this all the time in calls of like kind of, oh, that makes sense. And in my sort of fuzziness today, I was like, that happened at least a couple of times.
What happened? The feeling like something made sense?
Just you maybe validating what the part is representing or is trying to say.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like 90% of what I'm doing.
Exactly. Where like I guess what I'm saying is it made me realize how part of me, maybe the adult part, is already kind of like getting around it.
Yep.
Because again, we do this to function, right?
Right.
Exactly
right.
But it is very invalidating, and it's kind of the theme of the day in a way, right?
It's the theme of everyone's systems, I believe. We have adult manager parts that are invalidating of more childlike or whatever kind of parts that are either embarrassing or or they feel powerless, or for some reason we got a message that they're not welcome in the world. You kept saying that this is a part that needs to be existing in the world. And that's, of course, what they feel they need to do is shut them all down. They've been doing it for most of us since we were, 6 years old and teenagers, and they just keep doing it. And then we feel completely identified with them because that's who we are day to day. They're running the show. And yeah, that's why the work is kind of just noticing that and acknowledging those other parts without an agenda, because just by noticing them, we can start to see them, start to love them, appreciate them, and update everyone so that they can see that those parts can be safe with you. They might not be safe. It might not be safe to show all those parts to everybody else in the world. That's fine.
Yeah.
But in your internal family, they can all have their rightful place. Be themselves, share what they have to share with you, and give you their power. Share it with you.
Yeah. And so if you feel like you notice a part kind of coming up in day-to-day life, and it seems associated with certain memories, like, again, how useful is that? Or is it, I feel like it might kind of, I don't want to make assumptions, but
how
maybe
useful?
these are sort of maybe conclusions that I've come to in the past of like why I feel like that.
Right.
Maybe attaching it to certain memories, but does that like just, not open things up enough for them to speak?
So
even, I mean, they make sense. The memories totally make sense.
Yeah. And your connections could be accurate. And as you develop connections directly with parts, you can just check those out with them. So maybe, even if you haven't done IFS before and, parts work is new to you, you might already know that this memory is kind of related to this feeling, and this is probably why. And so you can take that, theory to the part itself and say, well, here's what I thought, and find out. A lot of times a part will say, yeah, you got it. You got 5% of it, but here's the rest of it.
Okay.
And yes, it can also interfere if that analyzing or storytelling dot connecting part is so strong that it's saying, no, we already have this figured out, so we don't need to go check, or that doesn't jive with what I already have in my notebook here, so therefore we don't need to listen to anything else. So that's when it can become an interference.
Makes sense. Okay. Wow, we've been talking for a while.
I had fun.
Thank you. I was deliberately not looking at the time because I would definitely have that like, oh my God, I'm taking up James' time.
Great. I'm glad. I think you did good. I think you showed up with a lot of parts, which is completely normal. You're able to speak for them, and
I think
so too.
There's definitely quite a bit of doubt in there, but yeah,
I think it is brave.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, thanks, James.
Okay. If you want to do it again sometime, I'll send you a link and we can.
Yeah. Actually, that was a question I had, is just sort of what you suggest in terms of frequency. Because I have certain times of week that work. And then I can sort of just like block off. But what do you think a good frequency? Or does that depend?
I don't have any. I'll just follow up with you on that on Discord if that's okay, because I kind of have different systems that I'm using, and they're always evolving. And
you mean
it would be easier for me to just send you a message about next steps.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks to your parts.
Okay. Bye-bye. You too. Bye. Yeah, so I've done quite a bit of kind of trying to connect with poets, trying to find poets. And I feel like more so than kind of finding individual parts, I just kind of found themes, or maybe, I guess polarizations.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And some of them are probably obvious already, but like there's like on one side a kind of like just say everything and say every detail, and
Mm-hmm.
and I think that like links down to kind of a sense of just, this like unsatisfied need to be known and understood, and probably a very human thing. And
Yes.
then on the other side, there's like a real kind of like a restraint, because a sort of, maybe on a spectrum of kind of just like hiding. It's not safe to say things, not, or maybe it's a kind of like trying to, an energy of sort of trying to keep back hold back the floodgates because it will go the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been really obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? I've made some little doodles somewhere, but I don't. Yeah, I just sort of felt like I was seeing like triangles where it was like one thing opposing another thing, and then a third thing kind of like underneath.
I see triangles too.
Do you?
I see triangles everywhere. Yes, I see.
Yeah.
Almost. It's two polarized protectors and an exile.
Mm-hmm.
That's
exactly.
That's the main schema in my mind.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it's pretty much everyone, right? But I found my little notes. So so there's like the kind of overtalker, oversharer. I was calling it last time the narrator, but I'm calling it now the articulator, which is sort of super evident for me a lot of the time. And then the embarrassed part that came up when I was texting you, and sort of like kind of you also like wants to be, I mean, not necessarily in this situation, but wants to be a better listener to people, and sort of like not just like have this floodgate of details and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So and then obviously the exile energy would be kind of not heard, not seen, ignored. I mean, there's some sort of abandonment in my early childhood. And again, I'm trying not to get there, just by, being analytical. But
right.
That's a really super clear triangle to me. And then another one is a kind of like, I don't know, feeling guilty or overly responsible. And then versus being defensive or angry. Oh, there's my timer. Sorry. And then I guess at the other corner of that triangle would just be sort of like a sensitivity to criticism, or to the feeling of shame. And so I was like spotting these themes and triangles at the times when I'd be like, hey, oh, hi, hi parts, I'm here. I want to get to know you. And I think that when I do that, and also just in the past when I've kind of, tried to do more mindfulness or meditation, which I find much easier in kind of in community with people, but there's a story I don't need to tell, but I've sort of like a little more distant from that community now in the last few years. I will just get what I think is sort of dissociation, or either dissociation or just like a lot of distract, kind of like, oh, I must jump up and do this thing, or it's very hard to kind of just sit and talk about. I mean, I also have this whole other sort of piece of my life, which is just a stress with my mum being ill, but it's amazing the parallels between the two, right? In a way.
When making.
Oh no, more being no. I said never mind the parallels, but I guess I'm I guess I just sort of, the whole being I'm sort of on the brink of being a caregiver, I suppose, in a different country. And it's like, throwing a bit of chaos into my life. And I think when I get very uncomfortable with that, it comes down to kind of like making decisions and feeling like just a feeling of incompetence or incapability, which I think that's the echo, maybe.
Okay.
So that's my information dump.
Awesome. Welcome.
Yeah.
All welcome.
Okay.
I love that you've done all that. That you've identified all that. That makes it makes the whole picture more clear and gives us all kinds of opportunities and parts to know.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. I mean, had I encountered IFF itself and this podcast and the idea of doing calls like a year or two ago, I'd have been all about the first part, because it is like this sort of simultaneously, like it's so great. And then when I come to the sort of like point of trying to execute things and put things into practice, it's like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I think I'm making it so much more difficult and complicated than it needs to be. And that's got to be some, very exile energy in there somewhere. Really, really feeling like very stuck and jammed and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
How would you like to have a minute or two of meditation before we pick apart and try to get to know it?
I would love that. I would love that. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a preference? 1 minute, 2 minutes?
I think I have a preference for 2 minutes.
Great. I'll set a timer.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay. All right.
Was that 2 minutes? Wow.
According to this watch, but it could be off.
No, that's okay. It goes by quick, but that was helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a particular part amongst the ones you named or another that you'd like to get to know better or change your relationship with?
So I guess I would go with this a feeling of having to get it right. That comes up, like even in this context, it's like I have to pick the right part, or I have to try to, and I don't know if it's like there might not be another chance, or you just got to get it right, and I find that can be, can come up a lot in different ways and throw a spanner in the works.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you recall in our last conversation that was one of the main focuses, was a part with that same message of having to get it right?
Yeah, I think so. The being on the spot. I actually went back to try to listen to the recording again a couple of days ago just to sort of refresh my memory, but it had gone. So, but I do remember the conversation. Yeah.
Yes, the recordings. I have to clear a room on Zoom every few weeks. Yeah. So in the future, just download it if you want it. Just
okay.
Keep it. Try to download it when I send it, and you can always ask me. You can always ask me, and I can dig up my local copy and share that with you. Yeah,
that's okay. I don't necessarily need to download it, but I did. I guess be good to clarify the process of, like, do you, when you're going to publish it, do you sort of give me one more pass, or how does that work?
As many passes as you like. Yep. So right now, it's deleted on Zoom. It's on my hard drive, and it's on my own cloud drive, and it's going to sit there until a long time. I haven't published anything recently.
No, I know. I know.
So it's going to sit there, and then someday I'm going to say, hey, maybe it's time to publish this. I'll say, I'm thinking of publishing this. Here's the cuts I'm thinking of making. Do you have anything else you want to say about this, change about this?
That totally clarifies it. Yeah. Mainly I was just thinking, if we do what happened last time, which is like, here's the recording and I listen to it and then I don't think about it again for a while, there will be another chance to hear it,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I do remember that part being active last time, and it is active a lot.
Okay. Okay. So how do you notice it in your body?
Bit of fuzziness, kind of high up on the head, skull, a little bit outside of me, almost.
Okay. And how do you feel towards it?
I find that quite a difficult question. In general, with this, yeah. But I think appreciative would not be what I would say. Okay. I think that's like me just kind of often this not knowing what my feelings are. But, you know, when I've sort of either followed you along in a podcast or tried to do some solo work, I'm like, I don't know. But I guess it stresses me out a bit. Or
okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so when it comes up, then you have this feeling of stress. So let's see if we can make contact and welcome the one who gets stressed out. The one who's stressed by it. Let it know that it's also welcome. And you could ask it if it would mind giving us space to get to know the one who has to get it right, or if it has anything else it wants to share about that.
Yeah, so that settles things a little bit. I think maybe the part that we're talking about, the getting it right part, is also active in this process of like, how do I feel towards it? Because, you know, there's this sort of feeling like, well, I don't know.
Wants to get the right answer to that, right?
Exactly. And yeah, so that, yeah, so it's kind of muddy, you know?
Okay.
And but I mean, this part or parts, it's like this kind of sensation of it's really difficult just to, you know, drop in, be in the moment, and not try to kind of rush ahead. And yeah.
Okay. And does that feeling of difficult to drop in, wants to rush ahead, does that feel like it comes from the have to get it right, or the one who's stressed about getting it, the get it right part, or does that feel like it comes from another part?
I think it comes from the main part, but it yeah. When I'm trying to
have to get it right.
Oh, the have to get it right part. Yeah. When I'm trying to kind of go inwards and suss things out like this, I often just don't know if I'm feeling a bunch of parts or one part. But
that's fine.
But I think that it's very possible that it's the main part. The kind of like, yeah, gotta get this right. Yeah.
Okay. So let's let that part know that it's also welcome. The one who feels like it has to get it right. That we are wanting to make time, space for it to be here and to understand it. Maybe even help it out. And you could ask it to kind of step back or even step in front of you so that you can get a better look at it and get to know it better. How does it respond to that?
Well, my sensations are slightly different. So maybe I guess part of me is like, how will I know if it's done that? you know.
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
So one way that I know if it's done that is I ask, how do you feel towards the part that has to get it right?
Yep, I guess I do feel more able to be curious about it now.
Mm-hmm.
But I also still feel like it's so active and you know, kind of influencing me a bit. Yeah.
You just let it know that you have curiosity about it, and also that you're picking up that its drive and its influence. Just let it know that the more it relaxes that, just in this conversation, the more that you'll be able to have the curiosity for it.
Mm-hmm.
But that it's totally fine for it to be here, that we do want to get to know it. And it's just easiest when it's kind of across the table. You could try asking it what it wants you to know. Getting anything?
Just sensation, and then like, if I ask that question and there isn't a clear answer, then there's probably whether it's the same part or which is plausible, or a different part that's like, well, like it's a kind of a variation of how will I know, or oh, I'm not going to get an answer, or yeah.
Okay. And I want to thank you parts for, being direct about that. Like, if you don't get an answer, you don't get an answer. It would make it a lot harder if you were making up answers, right? So that's fine. It's fine. Parts can also talk to me. If Have to Get It Right wants to tell me what it's like for it, why it works so hard, what it's like doing its job, how long it's been doing its job. I'd like to know those things.
I think it gets more relaxed when you ask those questions.
Okay. I got a bunch of them. I'd like to know, what it wants, what's important to it.
Well, probably not to be humiliated or seem really, any variation of those,
So if you do something, you don't get it right, then come the feelings of humiliation.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to avoid.
Right.
That there's a good bank of in there. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes complete sense to me.
And
it makes total sense to me that a part would use a strategy like wanting to get things right to avoid the pain of the humiliation.
Mm-hmm.
How about how long has it been doing this job?
Oh, forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And would it be willing to show you or me any memories or anything from forever ago that kind of maybe brought on some of that humiliation and caused this part to feel the need to really kick into gear? I know that's a sensitive question and don't have to share it with me, or of course we don't have to share anything publicly.
I'm getting not so much moment of humiliation, but more like kind of memories of being on guard to avoid that, and just sort of being like just not knowing. This was a sort of school situation years ago, but knowing, feeling like I was going to kind of not show up to a class or miss something, or just being the word that comes to mind is uncontained. Meaning that, like, I think I just just a lack of support, and but I feel like I was probably just in this state of like trying not to be humiliated pretty continually for or pretty frequently for a long time. So nothing really specific.
Sounds really important. And it sounds like those feelings of humiliation must have been really painful if it's something that it was striving so much to prevent. So what I'm hearing is a part with really good intentions that's worked really hard for a really long time.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to me. It sounds very valuable. How does it feel for the part just to be having this little interaction with me right now?
It's definitely more relaxed.
Okay. And how about your own curiosity or your own being able to see it? Has that grown at all? Are you also in a place where you can acknowledge, validate it, appreciate it for its intention?
Yeah, let me try that.
Okay.
So when I try to have that kind of dialogue with it, the sensations come back, and and maybe a voice that sort of, like a few minutes ago was kind of like, is that the part talking, or is that me talking? It's sort of just questioning the whole process. I would say that comes up. So the sort of like openness that I felt a few minutes ago when you were asking the questions, that it's not entirely gone, but the sensation of the part came back.
That's fine. You can just acknowledge that. Just as you did to me, you're seeing how it reacts to different people, different presences, different approaches.
Yeah. I mean, in general, I feel like there's a lot of mistrust from my parts towards me, most likely, which I understand.
Yes.
Yeah, it just seems to be hard to find that self energy. But I don't know if what's happening is just another part kind of poking in and saying like, well, just sort of doubting the whole thing, doubting the whole process. It's still quite hard for me to I mean, the whole idea of it is pretty wild still.
It is.
Maybe then that goes away.
I still have to pinch myself. It's like, is this really working?
I know.
How does this work? I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's a part.
And I love skeptical parts. Very valuable. They're welcome here. Or just questioning and just verifying parts. It's. I would prefer also to get this right than to get it wrong. So I have. I don't know if that counts as an agenda, but there is a process here that, we're looking for certain things. And as long as you're listening and you're listening to your parts and you're speaking for them, you're able to notice what you're noticing, then you're doing it right. So it also makes sense to me that the parts don't have a lot of trust for self. That's where we all start. They have very little reason to have trust for self if self wasn't there for them in the past, if things were too scary or we were just too young and protective parts had to get big and do what they do. That's just completely normal. So I can keep asking questions of this part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I feel it, and that was good just to acknowledge the doubting parts, or doubting part. Yeah.
So I would like to know, what's it been like? What's it like for the part to have to get it right? How does it experience its role?
Oh, just exhausting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
A very senile dog here. He might make noise.
It's all right.
Okay. Yeah, just exhausting. And just so kind of feels like it just has to be busy in so many different situations. I mean, this conversation now, it's much lower pressure than what I was talking about. But it's very busy, and I think it was busy last time as well. Very busy. Yeah. The stakes feel so high for some reason, even when they're not that high. The stakes feel really high.
I get that. I mean, This is your life. This is your parts.
Mm-hmm.
These are feelings that you've been dealing with, experiencing forever. So I think that's like pretty high stakes.
Yep. Yep.
And it's working in so many situations, so it just kind of doesn't get a rest from where it feels like it needs to show up.
Yeah.
Does this part also feel lonely? Like the other parts don't respect it, or that it's kind of has to do this job somewhat single-handedly?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels totally thankless. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also the fact that sometimes it will, it just makes things worse. And the intention was good, but it just kind of like messes things up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And again, I believe there are no bad parts. I believe this part is a good one, that is valuable. And even without knowing all the details, I completely trust that it has done good work. It has alleviated or prevented the humiliation. It has made moves, helped you make moves that get you through situations in a way that works. But yeah, I also hear when it makes mistakes, it doesn't feel like it has anyone on its team to share that with, or to be supported.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm getting this sense of like a mask.
Mm-hmm.
In like one of those wooden things that you hold up in front of your face. And so I guess part of it is just like not being known at all, because this part doing its job of making sure things don't go south.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The part itself functions as the mask.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe it's like it feels like it can't be known.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And we've also heard about, parts that have that as kind of their burden of wanting to be known.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And this, this situation that I mentioned before, where it comes up a lot, is like, well, I guess like anything, to do things well, it really requires just to be open and just kind of like genuinely like read a situation and feel what my body's telling me, and just actual genuine response. And this part is so busy, trying to shape things or make it a certain way that's safe. Yeah.
And it's aware of that itself, right? It's aware that its own process is not as effective as it wishes. Yeah. Okay. You could try asking, hypothetically, if you were able to go to any parts that maybe have those burdens, wanting to be known, feeling humiliated, those exile parts, if you were able to heal them and to help them, would this part be able to relax some? And what would it rather be doing with its energy?
Yes, it would. And I think that it would be functioning in that way that I just sort of described, where it's more responsive and it has maybe like a huge capacity to observe and notice and respond and be flexible.
Right.
You know, instead of being like this rigid mask.
So getting things right is still important, but it's able to maybe even be more effective because it has less of that specific drive, kind of pushing it, and feeling like it has to be rigid.
Yeah, just like actually doing the job that it's trying to get me to do safely. And it feels like that being able to have interactions like that with people and meet situations like people like that would be so
open and genuine interactions.
And feels like there would be some joy that isn't there.
Awesome. I would like that for it. I have some suggestions for how we might get there, and we can negotiate with the part about that. You could try asking it how old it thinks you are.
Well, this self-doubty part is a little bit there, but I think I got a 7. I want to say 7,
okay.
Which is actually before the era that I was like having little flashbacks to. That's quite a bit younger than that, but yeah.
Well, if we can, with the self-doubting part's permission, if we could just see what else we might learn about that time. Is there anything that this part wants to show you about what was going on at that age?
Just gonna let my dog out the room, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So so again, I have a part of me is not sure if I'm just sort of like coming up with this answer, but yeah, I did have a teacher at that time, that sort of age, that was very punitive. Would be, but not in a kind of just like the sort of penalty for getting more than 2 spelling mistakes wrong was was like just totally out of proportion for the age and stage and that kind of thing. That's what came to mind. But
okay.
Not I wouldn't say it's really a direct sort of emotion sensation. So I'm not sure if I totally, I mean, it's true. It was real, but I'm not sure if I totally trust that's the part giving me that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's all right with you, I am remembering kind of what we were assuming is the exile behind this part from our last conversation. And I can just share from my note and see if that checks out, if this part is concerned about that or wants to show us more about that. I really just have one word written, and it was voiceless.
Yeah. If it's there was definitely some of that at that age. There was definitely some of that well before that as well. But yeah, like this, I'm now just getting, again, not a memories tied to a specific time, but just being kind of like, just like no kind of no words coming and sort of things sticking in my throat and and just not having any kind of defenses or way to articulate what I needed to say, and just feeling like totally intimidated by probably both adults in my life, but also other kids,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's I'm getting a sensation in my throat with that.
Okay. Just acknowledge that and let those parts know that we're getting glimpses of them, that they matter, that they're welcome, that we might not be able to engage much in this conversation just for lack of time and because we're with this other part, but that they really do matter and that we do want to get to them. I kind of feel like this work is about giving all the parts a voice.
Yeah.
So it's high on my list.
I feel like it might be many parts. Anyway, I can still feel this get it right or mask part still there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was just showing us some of the why we heard 7 about how old it thought you are. Okay. And then another question for the mask get it right part is, what does it need from you going forward? If it could have anything, what would it like?
I'm just waiting a bit because I don't think it knows.
And that's fine too. It also doesn't really have trust or a relationship with self. So, you know, a lot of times I'm saying, oh, just tell the part, you know, name anything in the world. And if it doesn't, if it doesn't have any faith in any of that, then.
Exactly. Yeah. It's going to come up with anything too quickly. Besides, you know, I guess what I said before, functioning differently.
Yeah. And do you want to learn more about that or kind of flesh that out a little bit? Like, what does it look like for you to function differently? And does this part have any, are there steps to get there? Does it have any requests around any of that?
I'm getting sort of general things like more, you know, for want of a better word, self-care, more sleep, more doing this kind of thing, more checking in inside. And I'm also getting a sense of like how, even when those things are going better and my whole system is a bit more calm, it just like kicks in so quickly and thoroughly. It's so strong.
Yeah. Would it like to find a way to get your attention without being so strong? Like, is that something that you or it could picture doing differently?
Well, I guess maybe talking to it at times when the stakes are not so high. Because in situations where it gets active, it's such a kind of 0 to 10 type of thing.
Absolutely.
Maybe
Absolutely.
I don't 0. Yeah. How could I do that?
I love that answer. I mean, to me, that's what checking in is. That's what being proactive with parts work is. It's not waiting till I'm totally flooded by a protector to try to get to know it.
So the thing is, maybe I mentioned last time, I feel like sensations in my head, in my forehead, like the ones I'm getting with this part, are that's just where I feel a lot of stuff. So maybe this part is super dominant, or maybe a bunch of parts use that language or area of my body. So so yeah, I guess question is, how do we find each other?
Great question. You could try asking the part. You could check more now about your connection with that part. Does it see you? Do you see it? What is it like? Has your self's presence emerged some, so that at least you're recognizing each other? If you want, I can share some of the qualities of self, just the description. It might help for parts to identify it. The two at the top of my list are curious and compassionate. So it's the one who has curiosity about this part, has the compassion to listen and care and make space, or give space, time and attention to a part like we're doing now.
I would say the answer is a little blurry, because yes, I feel like some of those things are present, but just not as much as they can be. And yeah, I feel like maybe I haven't even this whole time gotten to a real, like, which I've experienced a little bit in the past. Like, I think when I see the list or hear you talk about it, I know what that feels like, and it's not quite here now. It's not here, but it's not. It's not really.
It's pretty much always in degrees. I'm at my degree, and you're at yours, and in this conversation, it's enough to get a part to open up and to learn about it.
Yeah. Let me try just a little bit more, though, just to kind of be with it.
Great.
Yeah, I guess it's about the same degree. I think that in my process, maybe some of that sort of slight dissociation or doubt or even that kind of hazy feeling of like, I will have the question there and the intent to be curious, and then suddenly it's like a bit of a cloudy feeling coming over. Yeah.
Yep. All normal. You get better at it, and I think you've already kind of shared. You and this part have already outlined how to get better at it. It's get better sleep and do more IFS. It's like,
yeah. The thing is, yeah, and so maybe these are parts to talk about another time, but there's like just ones that really interfere with that. It's like they are not having it. It's not okay with them.
Both the sleep and the taking time to do check-ins.
Yeah, and maybe it's a little bit the same. But yeah, there's a part that like is it really likes to stay up at night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Even when it feels very like, not helpful.
I get it.
It's been there for many years. And then with the if I can, well, I did want to ask you about journaling, because I hear some calls where people are so visual, and you ask those questions like, are you aware of the part? Is it aware of you? And if there's it seems like it would be very helpful if there was a visual, but there isn't. And so just what are some other strategies to kind of to do the check-ins? I mean, to do the but maybe I'm jumping ahead.
It's okay. If I can just throw out my first short, easy answer, it's the strategy is to make it a habit. Like what works best for you as you're making it a habit, or once you've made it a habit, is a different question from how do I just do this?
I know. Yeah.
And so to me, if that's the stage where we're at, is how do we get into the habit of doing parts work? For that, I would consult habit books like Atomic Habits, for example. And it's just like, hey, do you brush your teeth every day? All right, cool. Well, do a minute of this before or after or during, something like that. Set the thing on your phone and get a calendar and check a big red box on it. There's little things like that at least for me are wildly helpful, even if it's just some little check on a calendar. It's like, that's the difference between me doing it and not doing it.
So that there is that if it's not glaringly obvious, there's a lot of, at least self-diagnosed ADHD kind of executive function stuff that is very challenging. But I always feel like over and above that, I mean, okay, to be fair, I'm not, haven't really cracked that code in any way at all of being very routine, because I'm sure that would help. But I do feel like there's just this very strong resistance to doing things like that as well. So that there'll be times when I'm like, okay, this is a day when I can sit down and do this for a while. And then there's this sort of like rush of like, oh no, we have to do this. Suddenly this other thing is really important. Yeah.
So my response to that is make it embarrassingly easy by, I don't need time to do it. It takes 10 seconds. The purpose is to get the X on the calendar that I showed up. And if I show up for 10 seconds or 30 seconds, whatever my starting goal is, then that works. The other is to do it every single day. So that it's not a decision anymore. Again, I'm assuming you brush your teeth every day. And it's not a decision I'm making. I'm an everyday brush my teeth kind of person. I'm an everyday do some amount of parts work kind of person. It happens at a certain time of day, just like brushing my teeth. And to me that takes, because of course. I mean, I have those same parts that are too busy to do parts work. And for me, that's kind of the simplest way to handle that, is just to make the commitment to do any amount at a certain time. And maybe this doesn't, this is what worked for me. I don't know what's going to work for you. There's whole books written on this stuff, but I'm a big proponent of it, and I've seen it work for a lot of people to establish some type of routine.
Yeah. Which so that is something, I guess, when I'm trying to do it, if there are the word force field comes to mind, and that's not a word I really use, even. I don't know if I'm even using it right, but it's kind of like there's a repel kind of
yes,
energy. And would you just then try to work with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, that's who's up. So I'm gonna do my parts work for 30 seconds today. Oh, Repel is here. Hi, Repel. How you doing? I noticed you. What do you want me to know? We'll be done in 20 seconds. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And you can talk to parts, like they are speaking. They are letting themselves be known in various ways. So I'm sure if you ask Repel, maybe it takes a few times, but if you are persistent and let Repel know that you really are curious about it, it will give you some really useful information about that.
Yeah, so that's sort of what I've been trying to do, and I absolutely, I'm going to own that I could do it more in a more structured way. I would say I've been trying to do it every day, and in different ways. But yeah, what was I going to ask? Oh yeah, so just I've heard some callers, and maybe you, and maybe something I've seen in Discord. Talking about like writing techniques, almost sort of as a way to kind of hear their voices and not maybe let go of the thinking that kind of crowds in if I'm just trying to do it without some
externalizing.
Yeah. Do you have any suggestions?
I always have a blank piece of paper and a pen handy. So, yes, I try to write down. I find that when a part has a specific phrase, often that's really important. If it's saying "have to get it right" or whatever, that might even be kind of the name that I'm tentatively calling the part, and just whatever specific phrases it's messages I'm hearing, I try to capture those accurately. I find that's useful. I've also talked to people about how useful it's been to not write and to use audio recordings, because then I can just talk. And there's so many apps, and there's so many apps that will quickly translate it, dictate it. They work pretty well. So.
But it still feels like a dialogue to you, like you're dialoguing with. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the dialogue, doesn't have to be as formal. When I'm doing an IFS call, I'm in this seat and you're in that seat, and I'm asking these questions. I find that with my own check-ins, it doesn't feel quite as kind of polar or dialogue-y sometimes, where I don't need to be so explicit in the questions. I don't need to be so dialogue. Just feeling Repel, and just feeling Repel is telling me this. I didn't even ask it anything. I didn't have to ask it anything, because it's already here and it's already telling me this. And and when I'm curious about a part, I don't have to say anything to it. I can just show it that energy of curiosity. So yeah, the whole formatting of a dialogue, I think it's really useful to know if you're a practitioner. It's a lot less necessary for solo check-ins.
Yeah, I did get that sense, and I've got sort of pages of scribbles of like what I think parts are
great.
Saying
yeah, I mean, you started this conversation with what it was such a clear map of so many triangles that you're seeing. Give each one of those parts its own page, and just keep letting them speak and just showing them that it matters to you. I think that's what the daily check-in signals to parts, is that there's someone else here who wants to listen. And even if that's not super blazing compassion, curiosity, well, I at least have this half-minute habit that I can stick to for a couple of months,
Yeah, and if parts come up, which I think is happening around that, where it's the kind of like, oh, you're not going to be able to do it. Oh, that's just all part of the dialogue. Yeah.
Tell me more, part. What are you afraid? What are you afraid of? What do you need? What do you need from me? How long have you been doing this? Why is this important?
Yeah. Always a good question. Yeah.
So, have to get it right, part. How's it feel about all of this whole conversation? Does it have any more that it wants to share? Any concerns it wants to voice? Anything we skipped that it wants to let us know?
It's showing up just like slightly differently, like more on the lateral sides. It's got like a two part on my forehead. That's interesting, but I don't think so. I think just maybe a kind of a little glimmer of hope of like, okay, we're going to talk. Yeah.
You mentioned the sleep thing, and I've also forever been a night owl. I used to stay up until the sun would come up, and a lot if I didn't have anything else going on. And I tried so many different ways to fix that, accountability buddies and exercise in the morning, on and on and on. And it wasn't until I started doing parts work that I met the parts that want to stay up late. And it's not just, I thought, I just like playing video games. And it's like, no, there's a lot more than that to the story. There's a lot more deeper things going on. And once I understood that, I mean, it's gotten 1,000 times better.
No, for me, the one time I kind of I think was asking questions like that, it was like, I don't like to be told what to do. It was a very teenagey kind of like, at the time when your parents stopped coming in to turn the light off or whatever, but things like that. But
I had a similar part. It's like, this is my me time. I gave the rest of the day to everybody else, being told what to do. And
yes, it's fun. It's fun to be up late,
right?
even when it's not, I guess, for that part,
right? And that's when, again. So okay, part. So what do you need from me? Well, I need more me time. Okay. So you'd like to have this stuff. You'd like to be able to do this in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I guess that there's this sense that there's so many, and also that maybe did I say this last time? Maybe it's probably not super helpful to be so classifying about it, like to be like, oh, keep track of them, maybe, because do they kind of merge with each other or hang out in groups, or who knows? So in a way, I think that's where I came to, like, in the few weeks since we spoke, was just that it was almost like I kind of like tried to not chase them so much, but I was getting like what I think of as that kind of aerial view, backing up a little bit and being like, oh, there's these real strong kind of themes and opposition and wars that are happening within me.
Yeah, you can do a lot of that, zooming in, zooming out, and definitely, if you have a part like I do that does want to catalog every little detail, that can get in the way.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I have that part, but I probably don't listen to it very much because, I think I'm just sort of used to tuning it out, because yeah. Okay. Yeah.
How do we do? Any other questions? Anything at all?
No, I think that's I guess with the writing thing, I sort of heard about, I read somewhere somebody kind of saying they kind of type and, like almost as if there's a way to do it. I guess that's what you mean by voice recording, right? There's a way to do it sort of so that you're just not thinking ahead, because like my part that we've been talking to today is the, will sort of, that one or what I called last time, the narrator, or, the articulator, those parts will be so active that I think it kind of maybe they're just very busy when I try to sort of have a look inside. And so whether there were sort of like just ways to get around that, like I feel like I heard somebody say they're just writing really fast, or I mean, I guess people might do it with.
I do. I write faster than I can even read afterwards, because I'm trying to stay with what the part's saying.
So you'll do it that way, just like with a pen and with yeah. Okay, well, I've tried this in like little slightly haphazard bursts, and I will try to do it on a more sort of like scheduled basis.
Awesome. Let me know how it goes. And if I can provide any accountability or anything else like that, if you want to send me a message and say, hey, I did it for 3 days, I love doing that too. So feel free to, whatever little ideas you have around that. Because if I can only do a call every few weeks, I think that your parts, everybody's parts need more than that hour of attention every few weeks. So.
Yeah, that's great. I guess that was because I noticed, when I did text you, and I think you said something like, "Was there something you wanted to discuss?" And I immediately just got this kind of like, I don't know how much. I don't know. I feel like I sort of have to gauge, how available someone is, and we all have our lives. I know, you have lots of things going on, and so that's where I was sort of like, I would have, I think, appreciated some contact, but I also wasn't. It's that same dichotomy between like the floodgates and the kind of like totally mute spots.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll bear that in mind and try to figure that out with my people.
Okay. Well, I guess I would encourage you to, or let those parts know. I'm open to new things, trying stuff. Send me messages. If I feel like, oh, okay, this is too much, I don't have time for this, then I'll just say that to you.
You will. Okay. Okay. There's that. That's good to know. And then there's also,
but it is my favorite thing. I mean, I'm delighted anyone's talking to me about IFS. So,
okay. Yeah. Okay. Texting is weird though, but yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Okay. So you'll say that, and I will be attentive to my parts that might kind of like read things into things that are not there. Yeah.
They're all welcome.
Okay. Thanks, James.
Okay. Be in touch. And if you'd like to do it again, I'll send you another link. I think
I'm on your calendar for next week, and
awesome.
I would book. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to go. I am going to have to go back to, and I don't know when yet. So I was like, let me just get these two. So I'm actually on your calendar for next week. But even when I'm there, I guess that would make it late at night, and that probably would be okay for me to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can figure something out.
Yes. Thank you so much. This is really nice to be doing this.
I think so too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, James. Have a good day.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows? That might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.